there's so much floating around on the internet today about relationships and people who are going from a totally different space, becoming relationship coaches, and not a lot of it is positive.
Mm-hmm.
When you're hearing the narrative and the conversations that people are having, and that's one of my biggest issues. Like, you're always hearing about the negativity that is happening, but we're not talking about solutions. We're not talking about how men are trying to find good women and women are trying to find good men.
Yeah.
That's the basis of what's happening. And so what we really hear a lot of is toxic masculinity. The red pill community, throwing shade on women. The feminist movement creating this umbrella around toxic masculinity for all men. Everywhere you go, you say that we go around on tour, they're saying that there's not enough good men. And the divorce rate is through the roof. And so with that being said, what does it seem like dating today compared to pre-social media? Because today is pretty toxic. Like, what would you say dating was like pre-social media? Because you've been doing this thing a long time.
Yeah, pre-social media. So one, there was a lot less options and a lot less access.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Well, back in the days, the only people you really saw were the people at work, the people at school, the people in your neighborhood. Unless you were a rare person who traveled, which was not the majority of people, not like it is now, you did not see past where you lived.
Right.
And so that limited exposure changed your perception of what's out there, what's available to me, what I may like. Because once you get a taste of something, it can get hard to go back to a lower level, so to speak. It's almost like once you've had filet mignon, even though we don't eat meat over here, but once you had filet mignon, you have a harder time eating Spam.
Right.
But when you only had Spam available, you might have thought Spam was the best thing out there.
Flip that thing 13 ways.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So it changes the perceptions of what is actually available, which then makes it harder for people to be happy with what's in front of them. So that's one aspect of it. But then also, because of the over ease of access, it creates a lot of distraction. You know what I'm saying? So to me, back in the days, it was easier for people to hone in on who they were interested in. Once they found someone, they were a little bit more locked in. Now, because you can always get on social media and not just see people, see the world, see life, see events, see celebrities, everything you have more access to, now you have way more distractions.
Yeah.
And that creates a division in relationships as well, and doesn't allow people to lock into both their family, their lover, their kids, all these different things.
Is that why people, in my opinion, aren't connecting? Because they have this idea, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to the internet. There's always something else available out there. Is that playing a part in that?
I think it plays a part. I don't think it's the big driver of it. I think the big driver of a lack of connection is just we're a more damaged, traumatized society than ever before. Yeah. Because again, in having more exposure, we're taking in more negative energy.
More experiences.
Exactly. And even just, for example, back in the days when wars or stuff were happening, you couldn't see all those images on the internet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing images of war, killings in your neighborhood, people doing all kinds of outlandish, devious things that you never used to get to see or hear about at this rate. Gotcha. So that alone pours so much negativity and trauma into people that it's just making people more cautious, more afraid to be vulnerable, on top of their own personal experiences as well.
So they walk into a relationship being in a fear-based state instead of a love-based state.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So people are essentially saying, I'm not searching for love, I'm searching for somebody who won't hurt me.
That's an excellent way to put it. Gotcha. Excellent way to put it.
Gotcha. And so, like, being a holistic doctor and always looking at things from a holistic perspective, in nature, you always see there's always a yin to a yang, a feminine to a masculine. There's hot and cold, up and down, right and left, fire, water, sun and moon. Mm-hmm. And so I always hear you talk about the importance of divine femininity and the importance of divine masculinity. And the question I have for you is, first of all, can you define divine masculinity and femininity in this world where, you know, things are so skewed in terms of like when we start talking about femininity and gender and things of that nature? Can you define that?
So now I'm going to give it from my perspective.
Yeah.
One, both divine femininity and divine masculinity starts from our true, healthy, optimized self. And I say it like that because, as you know, the things that we eat, the things that we expose ourselves to, they can throw things off, whether it be our hormones, our perception, our negative, our energy that we're carrying and exuding.
Yeah.
And all those things can take us away from our true energy, all right, from our divine energy, as well as just overall a lack of healing from past traumas. All these different things is what pulls people away from their divine energy. So it starts from being our whole healthy self. And of course, none of us are going to be perfect.
Yeah.
But the more optimized you can become in your emotional, physical, and spiritual health, the more you can get in tune with your divine masculine and feminine. Now, from the specific point of divine masculine, I'll start there. I believe the divine masculine is the man who is willing to face challenges, all right? Willing to overcome, willing to make things happen. And again, it doesn't mean we all do it at the same level, because I believe there's some guys who are meant to do big, big things, and some guys are, I don't want to say lower level, but their purpose isn't as big, so to speak, but it's as important. Because every piece of the puzzle is important if we're going to bring harmony and balance to the world, to our relationships, to our households, so on and so forth. So I believe that having that willingness to do things, to conquer things, to face challenges, walking in a level of confidence, and I think what's also very important for divine masculine energy is a level of poise, not so emotionally driven, all right? And so again, we all experience emotions, but the man who can master it and not be driven by it is the man who can walk in his masculine energy. Because if you are emotionally stable, if you are emotionally reactive, you are not going to exude masculine energy. Plain and simple. You are going to slide a little bit more into your feminine. Now, that I know some women might hear that and think I'm insulting the feminine. I'm not insulting the feminine. The reality is that, yes, the woman is more emotionally driven by nature because she feels more.
Indeed.
She senses more. Her intuition is stronger. And I believe that's part of her strength. Whereas the man's strength is not to be as emotionally driven and to be more logically sound. The woman's strength is intuition. And to allow herself to feel and sense, that's where her power is.
Gotcha.
To walk in that positive, loving, nurturing energy. That's where her divine feminine is. But again, to be true to herself, because we all will have exceptions to the rule. We all have different things about us that may skew from the general norm. But as long as you're being true to yourself and walking in that higher positive energy, because no man who is healthy in his masculine or woman who is healthy in her feminine are walking around with just negative energy all the time.
Got you.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, that's a huge part of it.
And when you say challenge for the fellas, you're not talking about video games. And I'm asking that because a lot of like me growing up, for instance, my challenge came through like me and my cousins used to wrestle. You know, like we used to box. You know, we literally used to play football with no pads on. Tackle.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our challenges came that way, whereas today a lot of men's challenges don't come through physical challenge.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you're seeing a lot of men who are challenging themselves with black ops. And so is that a form of challenge, or is that not a good form of challenge to develop your divine masculinity?
I don't believe it's a good form of challenge to develop your divine masculine. I think there's nothing wrong if you want to engage in it. I think it's the overconsumption of it that causes a problem. And so, as you mentioned, video game challenge doesn't have enough real world benefits, so to speak. All right. Because also what happens is now, consider the other factors. You're in this room. It might be a dark room. So you're not getting sunlight. All right. You're not outside breathing fresh air. You're not being active physically. Your body needs that blood flow. You're just looking at a screen the whole time.
Right.
And you got stuff in your ear. None of that is really good for the body. So it throws off whatever might have been gained from accomplishing that thing in the video game. Is getting thrown off, offset by all these negative factors that aren't really healthy for the body.
Gotcha. And I always say, like, for men, it is so important for us to understand what we're capable of,
Yes.
not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, meaning what you can withstand and how you can stay poised, but also spiritually as well too. So I really appreciate that. Also, with your divine masculinity and divine femininity, is that your true north? Like, is it like guiding you in terms of attraction?
As far as each individual,
Let me ask this question. It'll make it a little bit more apparent. Is there any validity to the importance of the presence of defined masculine and feminine within every relationship to be successful?
yes.
And the reason why I'm asking that is because you have someone over here who's, let's say they're masculine as a man, is his true north going to be an attraction for femininity because those two things are just attracted to each other?
Absolutely.